Hello, Global Talk.
Dr. Kim's back in the studio once again. How are you this week, sir?
Fair. It's pretty cold outside.
Yeah, it's freezing this morning, isn't it? Is it below? It's not below zero, though, right?
No, it's
5
not
or 6,
that
something
bad.
like
It's
that.
still pretty cold enough for me.
Good to see you.
Great to see you.
Nice Man and the Bad Boys, Kaio. That was the last track we heard before we said hello to Dr. Kim this morning. Let's see now. I'm guessing that we're going to be talking about what happened election-wise in
Exactly.
America.
What else can we talk about?
Last week. That's great. We need to talk about this. You have a quiz question first.
Quiz for today is this. When you accomplish something successfully against all odds, you blank it off. What is in the blank? Number 1, pull. So you pull it off. Number 2, miss. So you miss it off. Number 3, push. So you push it off.
Okay, so when you accomplish something successfully against all odds, you pull it off, you miss it off, or you push it off, 1, 2, 3, respectively. If you know the answer, put it on our Bondi board or use Kakao Talk or text in on your cell phone, pounder sharp 1045 for 50 or 101, depending on the length of your text. We are giving away an iRiver Chisor's Halgyungi. All right, so let's talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
None of the polls predicted it. None of the media predicted it. How did Donald Trump become the 35th president-elect of the United States?
Right. That is the question everybody's raising all around the world. And even, I think there was an indication that even Donald Trump's camp, their staff, his close associates, didn't really believe he was going to win, but he did. So how did this happen? Polling would be a problem because there are pollsters who collect data, interview people, come up with surveys in terms of how the people are going to vote. And what happened was, I think, in a way, in the macro sense, in the total numbers, they were right because Clinton got more votes than Trump himself.
Yeah, and that's why people were saying that the Electoral College is a flawed system that needs to be done away with. And I think there was an online petition about this as well.
Right.
By the way, I think I just said 35th is 45th president
45th, that's right.
of the United States.
Right. But I don't think the United States can actually get rid of the electoral college system anytime soon because their country name itself, remember, United States of America.
Right.
So state sovereignty is important. Anyway, so in predicting that more people were going to vote for Clinton, still what happened was Clinton campaign itself did not succeed in mobilizing as many votes, meaning that, okay, people were willing to vote for Clinton, but did I actually get to go to the polls and then get to those voting places, and did they actually vote? It was not exactly the case. During the Obama's election and Obama's re-election, a lot of people were excited about Obama, and they actually went to vote for him. But this time, Clinton, not as many people actually took efforts to go to the polling places and then vote for her. So turnout was lower in comparison with the people who were interviewed. They were willing to vote for her, but they didn't. Many people did not. Ended up not doing so. That, I think, was the biggest problem.
One of the surprising statistics that I heard during the election night, I was following one particular media outlet from the United States, CBS television, and they had a statistic that showed many suburban white women in many states
Surprising.
voted for Donald Trump. Many college-educated white women voted for Donald Trump. Many Latinos voted for Donald Trump.
Right.
So what do we learn from that then? Because everything beforehand said people from those communities, minorities, absolutely no support for Donald Trump whatsoever.
Right, exactly. Misogynist, a person who hates women. That was the title that was given to Clinton. To Trump. Yeah. And then 55%, the number I saw, white women voted for him, Trump. So it's a big puzzle there as well in the minds of many people. What we are learning these days is that the politics of our time, because we have so much noise, meaning that SNS, news, so much information flowing around, the criticisms, so what seemed to be critical criticism for a politician could become just a noise.
What do you mean?
Something that you just let it pass. Like they don't take it as seriously, and then so the criticisms and critical news is becoming noise to the voters that they ignore, and at the same time, the the anger about the current situation or desire for certain change, whether this person is going to bring in change or not. They want to reject the insider. They want someone who will try something different. They don't know exactly what they're going to try differently, but something different. So I think that was the combination to explain the women and then Latinos.
It was amazing, though, because I think I mentioned it on this show. The next day, thinking back to watching those news anchors. And normally when you watch news anchors, in Korea or in any country, in America, they are very down the middle. They try not to show too much of an opinion.
They have to, right.
Those news anchors were in shock. They were silent.
Exactly.
And they literally used the words,
yeah.
What is going on?
Exactly.
I mean, everybody was completely shocked by this, right?
Right.
But what they speculated, and it seems like it's true, is that America was so fed up with typical Washington that they are willing to elect someone with no political experience whatsoever.
I guess. I mean, there was that expectation, but nobody really truly believed that this outsider, Donald Trump, would get elected. I remember Wednesday morning, I was watching CBS, NBC, and ABC News together with CNN, all 4 channels, Wednesday morning. And by 11 o'clock, as you mentioned, no exception, no anchors on these 4 channels, no reporters showed any excitement. Everybody, without an exception, showed this grim face, showing that I cannot believe this is happening.
Right. But that being said, though, if you watched President-elect Trump's victory speech, he all of a sudden sounded very much like a politician. And that's what everyone is saying now. He looks and sounds quite different from the candidate Trump.
Right, exactly.
So is this to mean that we expect some backtracking? I think we've already seen some backtracking on some of his campaign statements. Should we be less concerned now, I guess?
You mentioned acceptance speech. And in addition to acceptance speech, which I watched, I also watched CBS 60 Minutes. And his interview with Leslie Stahl. This was a completely different person.
Yeah.
Very different, very calm, very no nonsense, kind of like a mainstream. So what I noticed is, one of the, we have very few iron rules in politics, but one of the iron rules is there's a big difference between campaign mode on one hand and governing mode. And now he has entered governing mode and he is now wearing a completely different hat. And looks like, I saw on his face, like this sign of disbelief.
Yeah, he looks surprised.
Yeah, and his face shows, I cannot believe what I've just done. Looks like he had not really believed that he was going to become the president. Now, one of the toughest job on earth is on his shoulder, and I could see that, the weight of it on his face.
But why don't people know this, though? Why don't people know that when a candidate is on the campaign trail, the things that they say are going to be over the top, and if you actually elect them, then things are going to change. Why don't we, as citizens of any country, ask our politicians, what are your policies? There was very little policy talk.
Right.
It was just mudslinging. It was just, here's what he said that was, insulting. Here's what she's done that's been insulting. Well, that's okay, but why don't you tell us about your policies, your economic policies, or maybe your policies for the international community? There's very little talk about that.
Trump's line was simple, anything but Obama. He was going to go against all of these major ones of Obama policies, and that was simple and straightforward.
Yeah. Well,
but now he's changing his mind. He's modifying his positions on those.
Yeah. So now, what do we know so far? What do we know about the cabinet? What do we know about what the White House will look like? He's made a couple of appointments recently.
Right, he did. And there are so many different speculations about the cabinet and stuff. I think we have to wait and see. He begins with a very small number of the talent pool, but he appointed the chief of White House, the chief of staff. He's coming from the leadership of the Republican Party, very Washington insider. Together with him, there is very controversial strategist who will be helping him together with him at the White House. And there are several big names, but I think we'll have to wait and see. But Trump is trying to go through the Washington mainstream insiders. He wants to hire these like a chief of staff. And then through him, he wants to reach out to more of a mainstream establishment so that he can appoint some of the better trusted names to his cabinet. So let's wait and see what happens. I think it will need time.
Well, I'm not sure if our listeners are familiar with the name Dave Chappelle. Now, Dave Chappelle is a very, very, very popular comedian in the United States, but he's also very intelligent.
Right.
And he hosted Saturday Night Live, the American Saturday Night Live,
right.
last weekend. Now, in the monologue, it was very eloquent, and he made some great points. But what he said at the end of the monologue was, well, he's the president now, and I'm going to give him a chance.
Right.
Because what
we don't have any other
What else are you
choice.
going to do?
And also, like the common people,
Yeah.
right? American people and other people around. We don't have any other choice.
That's right.
Right. So nobody has a choice now. We have to just face it.
Yep, exactly.
Right.
All right. So Trump, during his campaign, was talking about the Korea-U.S. Free Trade Agreement. We saw during his campaign a very strong view against it. But now, after he was elected, we've seen a bit of backtracking there. So what can we expect in terms of renegotiations, if anything at all?
Right. He no longer talks about Korea-U.S. Free Trade Agreement anymore, but who knows what's going to happen. But if somehow he comes back to the table with his position that he expressed before about having to renegotiate the deal, I think it could cause a lot of problems for the United States. A lot of people have been concerned that it will cause a lot of problems for Korea, but we have to keep this in mind. Free trade agreement is give and take. And so we talk a lot about balance of interest. Country A, country B, they give and take, and then they can come up with a balanced agreement here. So if United States has to renegotiate it, we might have to take back some of the things that we have made as concession to the United States. So I don't think there is something that we have to really definitely afraid of. If they're going to ask us some special concessions, we will have to ask our own concessions on our side. So we just have to keep in mind it's give and take and don't have to be worried too much about it. And one of the important point is his rhetoric that this free trade agreement, including NAFTA, the way I see it, is very outdated view. It's 80s view, early 90s view. People losing their jobs in the United States, I have conviction that big part of it has to do with automation, mechanization, and computerization and artificial intelligence. So blaming Mexico, blaming Korea for loss of jobs in the United States, it's just not based on facts. It's not based on data. So when he has to renegotiate this, he will not find any substantive evidence that this will make much difference. So I think he will have to back off.
What about the U.S. troops here in Korea? During his campaign, he talked about Korea having to pay the bill, the full bill, to keep the U.S. troops here. So where does he stand on that now?
About that, also in Korea, there had been a lot of concerns. What if the United States asks us, Korea to pay fully or like a big part of it? Now we are paying more than half of it. But so the concern has been around, but the way I see it, that also is a concern. That is also an issue that we don't have to worry too much about, because we have to recognize in Korea there are two different views. One is the view that's in place for the past about 9 years. That is, United States is willing to offer our defense, and United States is much effective and powerful in terms of offering the defense that we need. Therefore, let's rely on the United States and then let it, defend us. That's good, economically effective as well, and in every sense. But there's another view in Korea that is, no matter what in international relations, there's no permanent enemy or permanent friend. So you have to have a capability to defend yourself. one way or another. And Korea was making such efforts up until 9 years ago here. We were planning on vastly increasing our defense expenditure. So this second group will argue, okay, the time has come. We have to go back to our original plan more than 9-10 years ago, and we will have to vastly increase our defense. And that's for our own good.
Sure.
And we can become more independent in international relations. So there will be that voice as well. So like trade, like defense, there are always trade-offs. There's no one-way street, so we don't have to be too much concerned about it. If the United States make any certain demands, we have our cards to present or to put on the table. So no strong need for great concerns.
Always two schools of thought, I guess.
Right.
Your personal reaction to the election, I'm assuming that you were as surprised as everyone else?
I've been saying that, like I've been asked this by my colleagues in school and stuff like that. They were asking, oh, you study politics, so did you know this was coming? And I say, if anyone claims that they knew this was coming, they're lying.
Yeah.
So there was a straightforward answer on my side. As I said, I think Donald Trump's, his face that I saw in 60 Minutes showed me that he was very surprised too. And now he's thinking, oh my God, what have I done? I now have to face this, one of the toughest job on earth. What do I do? I could tell that. I could see that.
Well, I've said it before and I'll say it again. American politics, if nothing else, is entertaining.
Right.
Never a dull moment, it seems. Right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
All right. Dr. Kim, thank you so much. Can we have the answer to your quiz question, please?
Right. The quiz, when you accomplish something successfully against all odds, we call it you pull it off. So
Yes.
answer number 1, pull it off.
That's right. And the correct answer was given by Dream Girl Nim from KakaoTalk. Congratulations. We'll be sending you the iRiver Chisol Salgyungi. Dr. Kim Byung-ju, again, thank you very much, sir. Always a pleasure chatting. Have a good week, and we'll see you again next time.
See you again.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.